Edward Snowden, the world's most famous whistleblower, has resurfaced with a stark warning for the American public: the foundations of democracy are under unprecedented threat. In a compelling interview on MSNBC's The 11th Hour, Snowden dissected the current political landscape, taking aim at Donald Trump's policies, the erosion of privacy, and the dangerous trajectory of democratic governance. His words serve as both a wake-up call and a challenge to a nation at a crossroads. Snowden, whose revelations about government surveillance shook the world in 2013, described Trump's disregard for constitutional norms as an existential threat to democratic values. Critics argue that Trump's administration normalized the abuse of executive power, dismantling critical checks and balances in ways that echo autocratic regimes. The stakes, Snowden insists, are higher than ever before. A betrayal of privacy. Central to Snowden's message was the ongoing war on privacy. He lambasted both Trump's administration and its predecessors for expanding surveillance programs that compromise citizens' freedoms. This isn't just a betrayal of individual privacy, Snowden argued. It's a betrayal of democracy itself. Under Trump, programs like the Patriot Act gained renewed scrutiny, with whistleblowers and civil rights advocates accusing the administration of exploiting these tools for political gain. Snowden highlighted how surveillance tools, initially designed to combat terrorism, have increasingly been turned inward, targeting activists, journalists, and political opponents. This is not the America we were promised, Snowden declared, underscoring the moral and legal implications of such policies. Snowden didn't stop at privacy. He warned of a broader pattern of authoritarianism, pointing to Trump's attacks on the free press, his refusal to accept electoral outcomes, and his cozy relationships with global strongmen. Many fear this is not just a passing crisis, Snowden said. It's the beginning of a new era where democratic principles are under siege. Historical parallels abound. Snowden invoked the collapse of democracies in the 20th century, emphasizing how fragile freedoms can be when citizens fail to hold leaders accountable. From the Reichstag fire in Germany to modern-day Hungary's democratic backsliding, he warned that such erosion often starts with incremental abuses that snowball into systemic collapse. Not everyone agrees with Snowden's grim assessment. Supporters of Trump argue that his policies were necessary to secure national interests and combat external threats. They dismiss Snowden as a traitor, pointing to his exile in Russia as evidence of his lack of credibility. However, analysts counter that Snowden's insights into government overreach are more relevant than ever, particularly as technology continues to outpace legislation. The Snowden interview underscores a broader ideological struggle, a fight for the soul of democracy in an age of surveillance and disinformation. Analysts warn that if citizens fail to demand accountability and transparency, the erosion of rights will accelerate. The country stands at a crossroads, Snowden said. We must decide whether we want to be free or whether we want to be safe at the cost of that freedom. Edward Snowden's message is clear: the fight for democracy and privacy is far from over. It's up to the public to remain vigilant, challenge overreach, and demand better from their leaders. Join the conversation. Like, subscribe, and share your thoughts on this critical moment in history. Together, we can shape a future that values both freedom and accountability.